I never thought my marriage would end like this. When I found a tube of lubricant hidden in my wife's underwear drawer, I knew Susan was cheating. But when I discovered the man she was seeing was Derek, our daughter's husband, my entire world collapsed. Susan wasn't just a cheating wife. She was a woman willing to help murder her own husband. After nearly 40 years of marriage, they thought they could play games with my life. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Before I tell you exactly what I did to Derek and Susan, subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. Stories like this need to be shared to warn others about predators hiding in plain sight. My name is Jim Patterson, and this is how I discovered my wife of 38 years was plotting to kill me for my life insurance money, with the help of our own son-in-law. The moment everything changed came on a quiet Friday afternoon. For weeks, Susan had been acting strange. My once warm, affectionate wife barely looked me in the eyes anymore. She was glued to her phone, hiding the screen whenever I walked past. She started wearing expensive perfume, again something she hadn't done in years. Then there was Derek. He suddenly began showing up at our Tampa home all the time, always with excuses, tools, sprinklers, the palm tree, and always when I was supposed to be working late. That Friday, I came home early with a migraine and found Derek's white pickup parked across the street. I walked in quietly from the kitchen. I heard Susan's laugh, light, flirtatious, younger than I'd heard in years. When I stepped inside, Susan jumped so fast her chair scraped the floor. Derek stood casually at the counter, drinking coffee from my favorite mug. "You're home early?" Susan said too brightly. "Just checking the irrigation system," Derek added smoothly. The explanation sounded fine, but nothing felt right. Their flushed faces, the tension in the room, the look they exchanged when he left, quick, secretive, loaded with meaning. That night, Susan cooked my favorite pot roast and hovered over me like a nurse. Her kindness felt forced, like she was trying to cover something up. The next morning, while she slept, I opened her drawer to look for my reading glasses. That's when my fingers brushed against the tube. High-end lubricant, still sealed, hidden beneath silk lingerie. Susan and I hadn't been intimate in over 2 years. My hand shook as I put everything back. The woman sleeping beside me suddenly felt like a stranger, and I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. I needed proof. On Monday, I bought a small voice-activated recorder during my lunch break. That evening, I told Susan I'd be working late. Instead, I snuck back into the house and hid the device behind our living room bookshelf. When I left again, I parked 3 blocks away. 10 minutes later, Derek arrived. Susan opened the door immediately. The next day, I retrieved the recorder. It held over 2 hours of audio. I sat alone in my truck and pressed play. At first, there was laughter, flirting, complaints about me being boring. Then Derek's voice turned serious. "Did you call the insurance company?" Susan confirmed the policy was worth $500,000 and that she was the sole beneficiary. "That's perfect," Derek said. "These pills will slowly raise his blood pressure. It'll look natural. A heart attack." Susan agreed calmly. They spoke about Costa Rica, about selling the house, about my daughter being too busy to notice. I stared at the dashboard as my entire life shattered. That night, I flushed every one of my medications down the toilet and lay awake as the woman plotting my murder slept beside me. The next day, I followed Derek. What I discovered was worse than the affair. He wasn't just cheating with Susan. He was seducing wealthy older women across Tampa, taking money, gaining control of their finances, manipulating wills, playing them all at once. Susan wasn't his lover. She was his biggest target. Over the next 2 days, I uncovered the full scope of his operation. Tens of thousands of dollars stolen, legal documents altered, promises of marriage made to multiple women, Derek wasn't just a cheater. He was a professional predator, and Susan had agreed to help him kill me. That's when I stopped being afraid. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about stopping a man who had already destroyed too many lives and was about to destroy mine. I didn't need violence. I didn't need blood. I needed exposure. I needed the truth revealed so publicly, so undeniably, that neither of them could ever recover from it. And most of all, my daughter deserved to know what kind of man she married and what kind of woman her mother had become. As I stood in my garage that Sunday night, everything finally became clear. For weeks, I had been the hunted. Now, I was the one in control. The warning label on the industrial adhesive might as well have been written directly for me. Skin contact requires immediate medical attention. Perfect. From the outside, it looked exactly like what Susan had been hiding, clear, odorless, identical in texture. In low lighting, no one would ever notice the difference. Over the next 2 days, I quietly prepared everything. Small devices, sound equipment, safety triggers, nothing out of place, nothing suspicious. My garage became my planning room. I tested and retested every piece of the setup until the timing was flawless. Susan and Derek had a routine. Every Tuesday. Every time I was working late. Tomorrow was Tuesday. That night, I called Susan. "Inventory's going to run long tomorrow," I said. "Don't wait up." Her excitement slipped through her voice before she could hide it. "That's fine. I'll just relax at home." "And Susan," I added softly, "I love you." There was a pause. "I love you too, Jim." Probably the last lie we'd ever tell each other. The next afternoon, I parked a few houses down from our home. Right on time, Derek's white pickup rolled into the driveway. Wine in hand, confident, careless. 30 minutes passed. Then, I quietly slipped into my own house through the back. I could hear them upstairs laughing like two teenagers who thought they'd beaten the world. Susan's hidden drawer was already open. She'd taken out what she thought was her secret weapon. I changed only one thing. Then I placed everything back exactly where it had been. From there, I positioned what needed to be positioned and left just as silently as I'd entered. Back in my truck, I waited. Music drifted from the house. Laughter softened into whispers. Then panic. Sudden, sharp, terrified. I heard Derek's voice crack. "Something's wrong." Susan's voice followed, rising into hysteria. "We can't, oh my God, we're stuck." For weeks, they had calmly discussed my death, insurance money, beach houses, my funeral. Now, they were trapped in their own plan, and that was only the beginning. Moments later, alarms filled the air. Then the screams, not theirs broadcast, for the whole street to hear. Neighbors poured onto the sidewalks. Phones came out. Someone shouted that there were people trapped inside. Within minutes, emergency sirens flooded the street. Fire trucks, police, ambulances, and leading the response, my daughter, Jessica, jumped from the rescue unit in full uniform. Focused and fearless, completely unaware of what waited inside. They broke the door. They ran upstairs. And in my childhood bedroom, my daughter found the truth glued together in front of her. Her husband, her mother. Caught. Exposed. Able. They were taken out on separate stretchers. Neighbors stared in disbelief. Phones recorded everything. Derek couldn't lift his head. Susan sobbed behind the sheet. No one defended them. Not one person. I stood among the crowd as the devastated husband supported, pitied, believed. By nightfall, the entire neighborhood knew. By morning, the entire city would. At the hospital, I played my role perfectly. Jessica learned the truth in pieces, each one worse than the last. Later that night, both Susan and Derek were treated for skin irritation from the emergency removal. Each of them was given a tube of healing gel, and each of them would soon regret using it. An hour later, screaming filled the emergency wing. Both of them. Doctors rushed in. Milk, oil, antidotes, panic everywhere. Jessica recognized the symptoms instantly. "This isn't normal," she whispered from the hallway. I watched in silence, not with cruelty, with closure. As chaos unfolded in the hospital corridor, another figure appeared. Mrs. Rodriguez, one of Derek's other victims. She walked straight toward Jessica and me, trembling with rage. "Your husband," she said, staring directly at my daughter, "has been lying to all of us." The hallway fell silent. "He told me he loved me, took $15,000 from me, promised to leave you." Jessica's world collapsed for the second time that day. And that was only the beginning of what would come out next. Jessica staggered backward. "That's impossible." After hearing what had happened that day, Elena said she started making calls. One by one, she pulled names from her phone. Margaret Chun, Patricia Williams, Linda Foster. Jessica's breath caught. "All of them?" Elena nodded. "Derek has been dating every one of them." Jessica leaned against the wall, trembling. "How many women?" "At least 6 that I've confirmed," Elena replied. "Margaret gave him over $30,000. Patricia has been paying his rent for 8 months. And Linda bought him a truck, thinking it was an engagement gift." From inside Derek's hospital room, another weak moan echoed through the door. This time, it sounded like he could hear every word. As if on cue, the elevator doors opened. 2 women stepped out looking confused and worried. Margaret Chen and Patricia Williams. "Elena called us," Margaret said. "We came as soon as we heard Derek was hospitalized." Patricia frowned. "But Elena, Derek told me you were just a neighbor. He said we were practically living together. He told me the same thing about you." Elena replied quietly. The 3 women stared at one another as the truth finally became undeniable. "I think we need to compare notes about Derek Martinez," I said gently. For the next hour, the stories poured out. The pattern was identical every time. Derek would charm wealthy, older women, gain their trust, then slowly start asking for money. It always began with small amounts. Then came the emergencies. Bigger requests. Bigger lies. "He even helped me update my will," Linda admitted softly. "I made him a $25,000 beneficiary." $50,000 for me," Margaret whispered. Jessica listened in stunned silence. When Patricia mentioned that Derek had keys to her house and access to her bank account, Jessica finally spoke. "We need to call the police." "Already did," Elena said. "Detective Morrison is on his way." This is systematic fraud. Through Derek's door, we could hear him frantically trying to make phone calls, probably attempting to warn other victims. But his hands were still shaking from the treatment, making it difficult. "How much money altogether?" Jessica asked. The women added it up. "Over $70,000, Margaret said. "Not counting the truck." I wrapped my arm around Jessica. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. None of us saw this coming." But inside, I felt something else. Derek's empire of lies was collapsing, and he was powerless to stop it. The elevator doors opened again. This time, Detective Morrison stepped out, his badge catching the light. He was a no-nonsense veteran in his 50s, clearly a man who had seen every type of con Tampa had to offer. He listened carefully to each woman's story, taking detailed notes. Then he entered Derek's hospital room. "Mr. Martinez," he said firmly, "I need to speak with you about allegations of fraud and conspiracy." Derek, still recovering from the burns, tried to sit up straighter. "I don't know what you're talking about." "These women gave you money for a landscaping business that doesn't exist," Morrison replied. "Your business license expired 2 years ago. No tax filings. No legitimate income. From the hallway, I watched as Derek's face drained of color. His charming confidence meant nothing now. And there's also the matter of a life insurance policy. The detective continued. We have recordings of you and Mrs. Patterson discussing plans to murder her husband. Derek's eyes went wide. Recordings? That's impossible. Technology is amazing these days, Mr. Martinez, Morrison said calmly. Small devices. Very clear audio. I had already turned over the recording device and every piece of evidence I had. Derek's con game wasn't just falling apart. It was being dismantled. Derek Martinez. Detective Morrison announced, pulling out his handcuffs. You are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and elder abuse. Even with his hands still red and painful, he was cuffed to the hospital bed in the next room. The detective's partner read Susan her rights. Susan Patterson. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. Jessica stood beside me as they led her mother and husband away. Dad. How did you think to record them? I pulled her close. I didn't. I found the recorder after the fire department left. It must have activated during the chaos. Pure luck. It was the perfect lie, and Jessica believed it, within days. The story exploded across Tampa. Local landscaper arrested in multi-victim con game made the front page of the paper. Derek's face was everywhere. The neighborhood rallied around me with incredible kindness. Meals appeared on my doorstep daily. Mrs. Rodriguez organized a support group for Derek's victims. The public saw me as the betrayed husband, the man wronged by both his wife and son-in-law. Derek was denied bail as a flight risk. Investigators uncovered similar scams in 3 other states. He was now facing 25 years in prison. Susan was released on bail and forced to live with her sister. I filed for divorce immediately and kept everything: the house, my pension, and my life insurance. Most satisfying of all was seeing the other women get justice. Margaret recovered her money. Patricia pressed charges. Linda got her truck back. Derek Martinez was finished. 2 weeks later, Jessica moved back home. One evening, we sat together watching the sunset. Dad, I'm sorry I brought Derek into our family, she whispered. You couldn't have known, sweetheart. Predators are experts at deception. She smiled faintly. I'm glad we still have each other. 6 months later, normal life had finally returned. Jessica thrived in her paramedic career and was eventually promoted. I returned to work part-time and spent my free time helping families recognize warning signs of romance scams. One morning, over breakfast, the radio announced Derek's sentencing. 28 years in federal prison. Good, Jessica said quietly. He got what he deserved. That evening, she asked me something that surprised me. Dad, do you ever regret how everything happened? I thought carefully before answering. I regret that you had to see what you saw. I regret the pain it caused. But I don't regret that they faced consequences. She nodded. We're stronger now. Yes, I said. We are. This isn't just another betrayal story, Dot. It's about learning that even in your darkest moments, truth always finds its way to the surface. It's about protecting others and standing up for what's right. It's about how age brings wisdom and how the quiet ones are often watching more closely than anyone realizes. Derek underestimated experience. He underestimated family. And he paid the price. The greatest lesson of all is this: families tested by fire either fall apart or become unbreakable. Jessica, and I chose strength. And that, in the end, became the sweetest victory of all.